Welcome to my second session on solving algebraic equations. This time we'll be looking at solving three-step equations by performing backtrack. In the previous session we solved two-step equations. We're going to do this by looking at three different problems. First problem, 4x plus 3 divided by 5 equals 3. Now, what am I trying to solve for? Well, I'm trying to find the value of x. X is my unknown. Now, what do I actually do to x? Well, the first thing I do to x is I multiply by 4. So, after I multiply by 4, I'll end up with 4x. And that gives me that bit there. Now, what do I do to 4x? The next thing I do to 4x is I add 3, which gives me 4x plus 3. And what do I do to 4x plus 3? I divide that by 5, which gives me 4x plus 3 divided by 5. And that equates to what's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. And that all equals 3. What I need to do now is just operate in the reverse direction. So I need to do the inverse of dividing by 5, which is multiplying by 5. That gives me 15. 3 times 5 is 15. Now, the inverse of adding 3 is subtracting 3. So 15 minus 3 is 12. And the inverse of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4, which gives me a value of 3. So I can say x equals 3. Let's just double check that. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. 15 divided by 5 equals 3, which is correct. Okay, now we'll move on to the second question. This time, just slightly more complicated because it has a couple more negatives in there. So our equation is 10x subtracting 2 dividing by negative 8 equals negative 1. So I'm trying to find x. So what's the first thing that I actually do to x? The first thing I do to x is I need to multiply that by 10. So I multiply by 10, which gives me 10x. Then what do I do to 10x? The next part of the story is I will subtract 2 from that. So subtracting 2 from 10x will give me 10x minus 2. Then what do I do to 10x minus 2? It's all divided by negative 8. So divide that by negative 8, and 10x minus 2 divided by negative 8, that is what is on the left-hand side of my equal sign. That also equals negative 1. So that's the right-hand side of my equal sign. Now all I do is operate in the reverse direction. So the opposite, or the inverse to dividing by negative 8 is multiplying by negative 8. So there we go. Multiply by negative 8. Which will give me 8. So negative 1 times negative 8 equals positive 8, because a negative multiplied by a negative is a positive. Then I need to do the opposite, or perform the opposite of taking away 2, which is plus 2. So 8 plus 2 is 10. Now I need to perform the inverse operation to multiplying by 10, which is dividing by 10. 10 divided by 10 equals 1. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the very last equation for this. Okay, and the final equation that I'll be looking at is 2x divided by 5 minus 4 equals 4. So I'm looking for x, so I start off with the x, and the first operation I perform on x is to multiply x by 2, which gives me 2x. Now for my 2x, what I do next is divide that all by 5. So dividing by 5 will divide 2x over 5. Now what do I do to this 2x over 5? I subtract 4, giving me 2x over 5 minus 4. That equals what's on the left hand side of the equal sign, which we know equals 4. Now I need to work backwards, so the inverse operation subtracting 4 is adding 4, which will generate 8. 4 plus 4 is 8. The inverse operation of dividing by 5 is multiplying by 5. 8 times 5 equals 40. And the inverse operation of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2, which will provide me with x equals 20. Now I can check this. 2 times 20 is 40. 40 divided by 5 is 8. 8 minus 4 equals 4. So until next time, just keep your feet on the ground and keep solving those algebraic equations. Goodbye for now.